we are going to talk about where we gather inspiration for Dungeons and Dragons right now on 20 Sides Weekly. What's up, guys? It's Philip. I am by myself this week because life gets crazy, and you know what? We still show up and do our thing. So we are going to be talking about where we gather inspiration. We're going to do this in two parts. I'm going to do the part today of where we gather inspiration for our D&D characters. Now, Matt will break down where he gathers his inspiration as a dungeon master, which both have a lot of their different facets and things like that. The DM side can get quite a bit deeper, especially if you start talking about homebrewing and all that kind of good stuff. But today it's just me and you. And we're going to talk about our character builds and where those inspirations come from. Before we do that, please make sure that you check out the 20 Sides podcast. We are getting near that episode 40 phase. Lots of great characters there, as well as our Patreon that just launched with a whole other Patreon exclusive campaign, as well as a lot more access to the 20 Sides fam. And so definitely check out those links that are in the description. Let's start talking about inspiration. So I'm going to break down where we gather inspiration into three separate parts. Number one is going to be our character build. Number two is going to be our character backstory. And number three is going to be how we role play our character. Now, here's the thing that I love about Dungeons and Dragons is there's no right or wrong way to do this. Well, I mean, there could be a wrong way to do it, but at the same point in time, however it works for you and whatever makes Dungeons and Dragons fun for you, awesome. Let's figure out a way to do that. First and foremost, what I'm going to say is always check with your DM and the party that you're going to be playing with. A lot of what you're going to be building is going to be dependent on either the world that you're going to be in or the type of story that you're going to be in, the other characters that you're going to be with. And especially if some already know that they're going to be a rogue or that they're going to be the brooding character who doesn't talk to anyone, because we all love that character, but you need to kind of know where you're getting started with a lot of these things. The best thing about inspiration for building a character in a D&D campaign is that you can really pull it from anywhere. So what I'm going to do is kind of break down Seven. Seven is a Warforged cleric. He's a cleric of the Forge in the 20 Sides campaign. So I'm going to use him as an example for where I got the inspiration for him, and then give you some examples of where you can gather inspiration for those things as well. So number one is character build. So if you've never created a D&D character before, definitely go check out some of the other 20 Sides weekly episodes where we break down just all the facets that go along with creating a D&D character. But the easiest place to start is knowing that you're going to pick a race and a class as you build your character. This is where we can kind of start dropping in some of that inspiration. So again, it can really come from wherever. If it's movies or books or somebody that you knew in real life or whatever it is, we can kind of start dropping that in here. So let's say your favorite character of all time is Harry Potter. That's your favorite book series and all that kind of good stuff. And so I want to be a wizard. Well, there's our class right there. So we already know I'm going to be a wizard. And let's say you're dead set on being Harry Potter. Well, that's even easier, right? Our race is going to be human. You can be a human wizard. And from there, we can kind of build things out as we continue to build our character. I will tell you with Seven, I wanted someone who kind of was the hero, but kind of stuck out like a sore thumb. So one of my favorite movies of all time is The Sandlot. And in The Sandlot, one of the main characters is Benny the Jet Rodriguez, right? He is with this group of misfits. If you see him, he kind of looks like the cool, normal kid, almost like he shouldn't be with this crew. But he stands beside him the whole time. He fights with him the whole time, and is the hero in a lot of sense of the movie. I knew that with The 20 sides campaign, we already had a dwarf barbarian. We already had an elven wizard. And so I wanted something that was going to stick out like a sore thumb. And that was a Warforged cleric. So Warforged beings, sentient beings, they're made of metal and wood fibers. And I definitely knew in certain scenarios, this guy is going to stick out like a sore thumb. But as a cleric, he is going to play the savior in a lot of roles. Number 2 is your character backstory. Again, we can draw this from really whatever you want to draw this from. It can be something that you completely make up off the top of your head, or again, we can follow our favorite movie or favorite backstory or really whatever. For instance, let's say you love the movie Troy and you want your character to have that Achilles heel, that one thing that could kind of take him down. Or just Achilles in general, where you've always, you come from Zeus, who has always had this kind of weight on their back that they're supposed to be the big, powerful savior, the great fighter, the one who always wins the day, and all that kind of good stuff. You can do that. A lot of people tend to go with the tragic whatever, right? My family died, or I was kicked out or shunned for whatever. Again, whatever inspiration that you want to draw from, just check with your DM, check with the other players at your table to make sure that it's going to fit into your campaign. But really, again, pull from wherever you would like to pull from. Number 3, lastly, role playing. To me, this is where inspiration can really have the most impact. So when you talk about character build, a lot of times you're going to build a character, and if it's inspired off of something, you're probably not going to see that exact thing. A human wizard doesn't always say Harry Potter, right? A backstory like Achilles doesn't always say Achilles, right? Because it depends on how the dice roll and how you play and all that kind of good stuff. But role playing is where it can truly show itself. So if you want to be Achilles, if that is kind of the backstory and kind of how you want your character to really work, right? And you've created a human fighter, and everything is epic, and how you carry yourself says, I am part God, and I am all of those things can play a huge impact in who your character is and what your character does through role playing. 7, again, the Warforged cleric. I wanted him to have this sense of like, he kind of knew what was going on, but he really needed to prove himself. And he wanted to show everybody around him that he could do the things he needed to do. He had strength. He had power from his God. He had all these things, and he just needed approval from everyone else. And so I really based a lot of my role playing off of Tom Holland as Spider-Man. And a lot of that really trying to like prove himself and show that he's not just the teenager who all of a sudden can kind of do some things, like, but he's truly Spider-Man. Like, he has these abilities, and he is strong, and he is fast, and he's powerful. He does have those things. So role playing is really where you can tap into that inspiration and bring it into the session in a way that affects other players around you. But again, this is where it gets important to check with your DM and the other players to make sure that the inspiration that you're drawing from is going to fit in the game that you're playing. So if you want to be the Jim Carrey type, where everything is kind of slapstick funny and wild and kind of off the wall, but your DM and the other players are set on a very serious, epic kind of session, that role play may not work so well, and you may want to pull from some other type of inspiration. So again, breaking those three things down, character build, character backstory, role playing, we really can pull from whatever we want to pull from as far as inspiration goes. And I think Seven, the Warforged Cleric is a good show of that. I was able to pull something kind of from the Sandlot for him. His backstory was really something that I kind of came up with myself, and kind of worked with the DM to make sure that it fit. Role playing was more of like Tom Holland as Spider-Man trying to prove himself to Iron Man and Captain America and all these other people that he was around. And so it really can come from whatever. And that's the beauty of D&D. So, whatever you are inspired by, let it inspire you. Let it help you create your character, the backstory, help you role play, do all those things. And check out the 20 Sides podcast to see how Seven, the Warforged Cleric, all those inspirations that I had to build him, how that plays out actually in a campaign. And if there's something I missed, or if there's something that you're like, no, that doesn't really make sense, put it in the comments. Let us know. We are here to talk all things D&D. We want to know what your thoughts are as well. Thank you so much for being here. Next week will be Matt talking about inspiration as a DM and where he pulls his inspiration from. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week.